us both clearly. I can't tell, so we'll be able to tell when it's all done. But yeah. So today it's been a while. Today we're doing a review of the movie Sinners. Well, more like thoughts and a little bit of a review. And I have Agent O with me today.
What up?
And since we both are kind of movie nerds and, we have some similar tastes when it comes to films, kind of perfect to sit down and do this. And also, we haven't really done this in a long time. So it's like, yeah, it's about time we do this. So what's new with you, I guess, for the audience? I know what's new.
Nothing much. Just been working, collected, still collecting. Sometimes I think about coming back to doing reviews, and then I see what's like out there, and I'm just like, yeah,
nope. Nope. Yeah, YouTube is kind of a hive of scum and villainy. I don't enjoy it like I used to. It feels like we get drowned out by low quality voices on a regular basis, and I don't like it. It bugs me, and it feels like it lessens the quality of the discourse when the majority of people who are making the most noise are like real, just low quality grifters, so to speak, Um, but we figured, hey, we'll try and add something to the pool so that it's not so dirty. You got at least a little piece of clear, clear water in this area where we tell you the truth and no bullshit.
once you
So
sift through all the garbage.
I know, right? Um, so I guess before we jump into it, what other movies have you checked out recently?
Uh, Not much. I have to finish. Actually, I have to finish. Um, that last Castlevania. I think I'm like 2 episodes behind,
Oh, okay.
and
I like
and I
it.
know we already talked, but that what was it? Strange? Not what was it? Strange
Freaky
Tales.
Tales.
Freaky Tales. Yeah.
Oh God. I don't understand the reaction to that movie. People like, how are people in 2024 saying that that looks like the 80s? The movie looks like what people in 2024 would imagine the 80s look
Yeah.
like. But anyway, yeah, I
Yeah.
I watched that bullshit. I was not impressed. So I watched Havoc. It was kind of like I missed the raid.
Yeah.
Um, uh, I watched uh the Prosecutor, that Donnie Yen movie, and like it's more of a drama that happens to have some action in it. But that opening action scene, holy shit! Like, when are Americans gonna actually watch good action from across the pond and be like, "Yo, we need to do this"? That shit. There's first person stuff. It's almost as if he's wearing a GoPro and just fighting people. He's just kicking the shit out of folks with a GoPro, and it looks great. It looks like that super realistic. Remember that super realistic? It's like a SWAT game. I can't remember what it's called. Body Cam. That's what it's called. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. On PC.
On
Yeah, I know what
PC,
you're
the
talking about.
shit looks so real. Well, when he goes into the first person mode and he's got the shield and the pistol, it looks just like that. It's so good. He kicks some dude and pops him on the way down. Like, just masterclass. And it's crazy that he's one of the only people still doing it, like, to that degree.
Yeah.
It's like, if he makes a movie, it almost doesn't matter what the genre is, or what style he's trying to do. I'm watching it because Donnie Yen is like, he's like one of the OGs, and he's still doing it, and he's doing it well.
You gonna watch the one
Um,
where he's a school teacher?
yeah, I saw that one, Big
You
Brother,
did?
I think it was
Yeah, I
called.
started watching it.
It took me a couple times because I watched it. I got halfway through. I think when it came out, Nico was still little.
Yeah.
Lil Strident was still much smaller. So that's probably why I had to stop it. It took me like 2 nights. But yeah, it was good. I mean, he was folding people up in that movie too, which was
Oh, see,
kind
I
of
haven't gotten
funny.
all that yet. It's still doing the whole like lean on me type thing with
Yeah.
the kids.
I mean, that's pretty much what it is,
Yeah.
with the Hong Kong flair to it.
Yeah.
Um, what else did I watch? I watched Jesus, man. I asked the question and now I can't remember the stuff I watched. Of course, I saw Sinners. I think I saw Sinners 1.5 times. I didn't finish it the second time.
Yeah.
But I was like, I've seen enough to do this. I actually stopped to continue working on SWAT 2249. That's the toy line I'm working on right now that you guys are going to start seeing a lot more of at some point because I got to get the word out there for people. But yeah, I mean, I haven't really. There hasn't been that much that's quality to make you want to jump in. I did see Thunderbolts, and it's good. I think it's better than Deadpool and Wolverine because it's not one of those. It's not multiverse, and it's not begging you to keep watching by throwing you all these Easter eggs and shit.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we wrote a script that has a beginning, middle, and an end, and we actually wrote characters. Watch this. And I will say, everybody's suspicions are 1,000% correct. There were suspicions about the cast of characters. There's two. One is obvious, but the other one is not so obvious. But if you look at all the trailers and all the promotional materials, they kind of let you know somebody doesn't make it. And I'll just tell you that they don't make it real quick too. Like they show up and it's kind of like, oh wow, they're kind of cool right now, and then they're gone.
Yeah,
like, nope.
I kind of have an idea.
Yeah, everybody knows. Taskmaster dies.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of figured.
I
wonder if they got rid of the character so they could have, I guess, quote unquote, the real Taskmaster show up.
The Tony Masters show up. Yeah, I hope so. I want him to show up. I have to hear him in real life. Be like, aim of Hawkeye. Aim of Hawkeye. Just like Cap. It has to be some wisecracking Long Island sounding, some Goomba sounding ass motherfucker that just does this for the money, with his own red room or his own school, because that's pretty much his shtick. And we've yet to see that. And I don't understand. It's so easy. You know what I mean? It's so that piece of shit Spider-Man cartoon that used to be on that became Ultimate Spider-Man. You remember?
Yeah.
Like halfway through, it just changed to Ultimate Spider. They got it right. They even got his costume right.
I was actually surprised they didn't do that with Yelena. Like, there's widows just out there now, after the events of the Black Widow movie.
I think they're trying to forget that they made that movie. If I'm being honest, the movie was kind of. It's weird because, like, in the center of that film, you have a good story. You got child soldiers, you got spies, you got the whole like duty to your country versus duty to your family, in quotes, because they didn't. They're not supposed to really think about the fact that they're not actual family, but they kind of grew to be family. And then you have like the whole like the trauma of whatever they did to them in the Red Room, and then they're starting to like kind of, for lack of a better term, become human again after years and years of just being machines. And like they fucked it up. They shat the bed with all this goofy weirdness and the message, where the girl power message, where smash the patriarchy. Like, get the fuck out of here. They're superheroes. These stories are kind of like, if you want to extract that from the story, then more power to you. You know what I mean? That's kind of how superhero stories traditionally have worked. They have allegorical elements, but they don't have to be 100% an allegory. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, people watch shit like Shazam or He-Man, and obviously it's wish fulfillment. It's a power fantasy, but there's a whole bunch of other lessons that you can pull from the stories that those characters go through. And if you want to pull one of these social messages from it, you probably could, because those aspects exist. I mean, you're dealing with human beings for the most part. And based on just pure interaction, you're going to have some of that stuff pop up. So I don't understand why they have to beat you over the head with this giant pillar-sized stick about social issues when I'm trying to watch fucking enhanced soldiers kick the shit out of each other. You know what I mean? Or superheroes jump around the world and fly and do all this cool shit that can't be done in real life. Like,
yeah, I mean, there's definitely a way to go about it and not have it, beaten over that head with it. And I thought like Falcon and Winter Soldier did a pretty good job of it.
and people hate it.
Sinners in a lot of ways does a good job of it.
What? Which one?
Sinners does a good job.
Oh
of
yeah.
it.
Yeah. Speaking of which, let's just jump
Yeah.
into it. Let's jump into it. So Sinners is pretty simple plot wise. The plot is essentially it's a ship of fools with social commentary of the time, religious commentary of the time, and then vampires, supernatural elements from like what's the word I'm looking for? Culturally specific supernatural elements kind of thrown into the story. Because some people said it's a new genre, and I'm like, it's just horror with. I mean, it's just a drama with some horror elements, but it's more like supernatural elements because they don't really play them up for the kind of horror that you would expect. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, there's no real jump scares or or suspenseful, holding you until you see the thing come out the shadow and gets the person or whatever.
Yeah,
some
it's
of
more like
some of the tropes that you always see in horror films. You don't really see that in this movie.
Yeah, it's more like slow reveals. They like you get pieces of the information, and then eventually, like they drip feed information until you get the full picture by the end of the movie. And you may not even. Some people that I've watched some of the reviews, which is what made me want to do a review or a thoughts video, or whatever. A lot of the reviews don't get the movie. They don't get the elements. There's a whole bunch of historical context that they don't know. They don't get. They missed. There's a whole bunch of like, low IQ people constantly saying shit like, man, Grace fucked it all up. And it's like, it was a movie. It had to have drama in it, or the person who you shouldn't have trusted was the white people. Like you have all these black folks saying that about Mary. And it's like, I mean, they explain that she's mixed.
Yeah.
And the actress actually has a mixed heritage, like a very mixed heritage, which is why they cast her. And you guys still show your racist ass every time these things pop up. The movie actually has a very big, it has a big commentary on unity between the minorities in a situation where essentially we're kneecapped. We're not supposed to be able to take advantage of the situation and make good of it. But working together, when we have unity amongst all of us being, in the same fucking situation, we can do better, but we still don't.
Yeah.
And then
it's
you
just
have
funny because the message comes from like the worst character,
the worst people. Yeah, the fucking vampires are like, yo, if you join us, we have pure unity. He's like, we're as close to the earth as it gets. It's all of us against everything else. There's people who watched the movie and missed that the KKK were still in the movie. They just saw white vampire and black people, and they said, black people good, vampire bad. They didn't even catch the nuance. So the movie is called Sinners for some very specific reasons, because no one in the film is pure except for the main character, Preacher Boy. And even Preacher Boy sins in the film. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people miss it.
And how?
Yeah, he really does. I mean, he was told up front what was going on, but we'll go into the like a brief, overview of what's going on in the story. Essentially, it's you have the Smokestack twins. That name, Jesus Christ. The Smokestack twin. Yeah, it works for the time. Yeah. They had names like that, so it makes sense. But it's just, from someone who creates characters as well. Holy shit, you didn't try. But I get it. The time period kind of calls for it. So I'll be nice. Smokestack twins are they're in Mississippi, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Mississippi Delta.
The Delta, yeah, Mississippi Delta. They moved away, went to the military, came out of the military, and went to work for the mob. They went to work for freaking Al Capone, I think it was. That's what they say in the movie.
Yeah.
And during this is Prohibition era. So and Jim Crow as well is going on at this time. So you have they Capone is essentially, this is the end of Capone's time, and they pocketed money from jobs that were done,
And
and that's
alcohol.
why, and alcohol as well, right? And that's why they fled back to Mississippi from Chicago so that they could utilize that to try to give back and get something from the people of the town they grew up in. Then you have Preacher Boy, who is gifted as fuck at the blues. You can tell that's his passion, his heart, everything is in it. When you hear him sing, it's like, holy shit. And it's awesome because this is what's the dude's name? Catan is his last name. Catan. This is Miles Caton, I think is his name.
Yeah, his first movie. Yeah.
This is his first movie. That boy, oh man, he better become famous. Like he better. He said he wants to play Miles Morales. Do it. Let him play Miles Morales, please. He plays this role like it's his personal story. Like this shit, it feels like he wasn't acting at all. His father is one of those really hardcore, preacher fathers that, essentially smothers their kid with fear of everything outside of the church. But Preacher Boy has that passion, as do most artists, myself included. I'm pretty sure you got it too. That's why you left home and went to art school out here, is we had the passion to go. We had to get scholarships to get into the school. So we had to obviously have the passion to at least complete making a portfolio that would allow us to get into the school. And like, I draw every day. So and I've been drawing every day for nearly 40 years. So I'm pretty sure he sings every day. You can feel it in the performance. This dude, like, music is his life.
Yeah.
But his dad is essentially trying to tell him, you're singing for people who do all these bad things. Essentially, you're hanging out with sinners because they let the music and booze and stuff kind of influence their actions, and they always do the wrong shit. Preacher Boy is essentially like, this is a piece of me. I got to do it. I'm gonna do it. So, I'll see you in the morning. It's like I work like everybody else. I want to enjoy myself when I'm done. And apparently him, Preacher Boy, and the Smokestack twins are cousins. I don't know if it's actual cousins or if it's
they're
like,
related
how
by
some
blood.
people say that. But
no, they're related by blood because
okay.
their dads are brothers.
Okay, cool. There's a lot of stuff that I missed that I saw on the website. They explain stuff like the twins' first names. You only hear it briefly from their girlfriends.
Yeah.
Or their love interests. I can't say girlfriends because it's part of the problem. Then you have let's see, you have Annie, who is Smoke's girlfriend.
Yeah.
Or Smoke's ex, because they apparently had a child together and they lost the child. And she's into, I want to say, hoodoo.
Yeah.
And so she reads the bones, she makes tinctures and all that stuff. She's super what they call Hotep now. She's one of them. She's one of them. She does all that kind of stuff. But she's like the legit kind. She really can see the spirits, feel the energies, and she knows a little more than everybody else because she believes in all the other stuff. She's open to that sort of thing. Then Stack, he's the goofy one of the two that's always smiling. You could tell he gets them. He probably got them in a lot of trouble. He had a relationship with Mary, who's played by Haley Steinfeld, and he's played by Wunmi Mosaku. But she's funny as hell in the Deadpool movies, and in Loki actually.
Yeah,
she was in the last Deadpool movie, but she was in Loki and anything with the TVA she shows up in. But Haley Steinfeld, who plays fucking Gwenpool, which is crazy. She plays Mary. Mary. Yeah, I said Gwenpool, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I meant Spider-Gwen. Yeah, she plays Spider-Gwen.
And Hawkeye.
And Kate Bishop.
Yeah.
She plays Kate Bishop. She was with Stack before they left. And he kind of felt like, being that it's predominantly black and there's very clear cut division between, black and white. I mean, it's the deep South during Jim Crow. Like, she obviously was going to get shit because she's lighter skinned, so she could pass for white. Just because of the lighter skin, she could ignore the one drop rule, and they couldn't. So he kind of was like, when he left, he set her up with other stuff, other people and shit, and was like, go have a good life. Let me go do the shit I'm gonna do because I don't want to bring you down with me. But clearly, he wanted to bring her down with him. He clearly was still wanting her to be.
I
with
mean, they
him.
both wanted it, and
Yeah. As part of what is his undoing. Honestly, it's part of everybody's undoing. Um, and essentially, they are kind of the main characters. I mean, there's also Perline, who is a friend of the group, who's married. I think she's a friend of theirs because she was with Marion them. I don't know, but she was in the same place when they introduced Marion.
yeah. I wasn't quite sure if she was with them or not, or if she was just there at the train station and just
Yeah.
happened to be in the crowd when they were advertising that they were gonna to come to the juke tonight or that night.
Yeah, because I mean, when they said she could sing, they acted like they knew of her voice before. Yeah. So I don't know. It may be. It could be something we missed. But she explains. She gets called out by Preacher Boy. Preacher Boy is interested, like super interested, and she's like, "I'm married," but she's not that married because she's like kind of still flirting with the boy. And she also shows up to the juke joint without her husband at the end because she planned to get down, because that's part of the problem is all these characters we're explaining to you, except for Grace and Bo, who are already married and have a kid. They all are, and Annie to some degree, because Annie wasn't really, she seemed like she was one of the few people who had a pure love for one of the characters, and didn't really stray from that.
Yeah.
They most of everyone else sinned, and it was real obvious. You have the twins. I guess Smoke not so much, but they sinned in the sense that they went and they were killing people for the mob. First, they were killing people for the country that doesn't give a shit about them. But you could see how, if you had the option to escape the Jim Crow South, and you trade one master for another, I mean, at least in that one, you're getting to murk people to get that shit out, as opposed to being in the South where you're sweating and getting your ass kicked all day long, and it's not much you can do because you fuck up, and then you have the KKK on your back.
Yeah.
So you have them sinning, becoming gangsters. You have the preacher boy sinning because his father told him what he's going to do. There's even a line where he says, if you keep dancing with the devil, one day he's going to follow you home. And I mean, it's obviously a figure of speech, but like, it kind of really came to be in Preacher Boy's life. He wanted to mess with a married woman, and he wouldn't stop, even though she did tell him early on. I mean, she wasn't very convincing, but she did say, I'm a married woman. And usually, for an honorable man, that's your cue to be like, all right, my bad. You say your piece, give her your compliment, and you move on. But Preacher Boy was like, I'm getting them draws, and he got them draws. And then you have Mary, who was married and had been away for a little bit, comes back, sees her ex, and is like, yo, I need that again. Even while she's married. And they partake like you wouldn't believe, to the point where it becomes, that's how he dies. Everybody is essentially being called together because the twins are trying to create a juke joint so they can get everybody in there and they can sell all the booze they stole from Al Capone. And then they hope to make money off of it, and they have to kind of readjust, because one of them doesn't realize that the people in the area they grew up, even though they work, they don't really make much money. So essentially, they have to make deals with a bunch of different folks, get as much help as they can to get the juke joint going. But you know how it is. It's always somebody trying to, as the kids say today, prey on your downfall. And the KKK guys, or the man they bought the shop that they wanted to turn into the juke joint, are all KKK. Well, he's a KKK Grand Wizard, essentially. Elsewhere, you have a dude running from some natives, some First Nations people, Choctaw to be specific, and he runs into this house, runs up to this house. There's people inside the house, a white couple, and they're kind of
They're on
they're
guard.
on guard from this dude. And as he's asking for help, because he's saying these guys are trying to get him, he sees fucking clan garb in the background. So he changes from trying to appeal to them as humans to like, yo, I got money. Let me in, please. I got some money. I just need you to hide me from these guys. So they do it because they want their money. And then these Choctaw vampire hunters, which I thought was dope. I'm like, yo, make a fucking movie about that.
Yeah.
Make a movie about that too.
I need to
Like
see
I want to see that. Make a sequel or make something in the same universe, but focus on those guys. Because I guarantee you, if you ever learn about all the mythologies, the various mythologies of the Native Americans, holy shit, your mind will be blown. Some of it's really simple stuff. Some of it is really complex, but they got some really cool, I mean, interesting, I guess, for lack of a better term, because some of that shit is scary as fuck, but other parts of it, just from the sake of making a film, it'd be amazing to see on screen. But anyway, they come and they ask about this particular dude. They tell him how dangerous he is. Don't let him stay in your house, et cetera, et cetera. And they kind of are like, yo, nah, we didn't see him. And then, of course, what you think is going to happen happens. He kills both, but they both get back up. He kills the husband first. The wife is scared when she sees it, but then the husband gets up and he's changed. And it's really quickly established that the vampires in this, once they're turned by the alpha, they share a hive mind. They have their own thoughts and everything, but the leader can read their minds and all their past thoughts and everything. And they all share some level of consciousness to some degree. So, he says, don't worry, we're all going to be all right in just a little bit. And, obviously the husband is about to turn the wife. Parties, it cuts to the actual juke joint. They've got everybody together. I'll let you continue from here. Because I just talked for a long time. Let me let you give some of it summarized,
So yeah, they're at the juke joint, everybody, they're performing. I just want to jump straight to that montage.
Hell yeah.
Because the movie talks about how music draws people in, and it also draws in evil, but it's also a link to basically our ancestors and to all of our cultures. And that montage, I mean, it's a one continuous shot, and continuous shots are done a lot in film, but this one, like the level of choreography you had to have to pull this off, because you start to see all the people there, and then you start to see, because they say the music draws everyone from the past, present, and the future.
Well, it connects. It connects everybody. Yeah.
And you start to see, you see a DJ, you see a breaker, you see African people dancing, and of course, since you had Grace and Bo there as well, you saw the Asian influence as well. So they had Monkey in there, and then they had a woman doing traditional Chinese dance. That shit was
twerking.
Oh yeah, they did have people twerking. Yeah.
I was like, dude, you did not have to put that there. You could have done something else.
Walking. There was crip walking.
Yeah. Like, come on, dude. But whatever. It's culture. It's still dance. I guess it counts. I would have chose something else, but
Yeah, I know something else. I would have chose Michael Jackson.
Exactly.
It is so influential. People are still dancing like him to this day.
Yeah.
But yeah. It just I just loved how when you would just see the different cultural influences just kind of, it's like they were there the whole time, even though they weren't. They would just come into the shot, or they were in the background, but you don't notice them until it's kind of like their cue, and the camera moves to where they are. That was just phenomenal. Like that to me was just worth the price of admission alone.
And then it was dope how the roof burned down,
the roof
it was on fire.
Yeah.
It was dope. It was real dope. I was like, wow, they did a really good job. They did a really good job. Like you feel you really feel the impact and the connection. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you feel exactly what the intro kind of establishes when it explains how every culture essentially has a version of these singers whose voices could pierce the veil between time and space essentially and dimension. It's just fucking dope. Yeah.
Yeah, and it also shows how the blues had an influence on later genres of music too.
Mm-hmm.
You had the Jimi Hendrix looking dude kind of pop in and was going in on it on the
Andre
song.
3000.
Yeah, he did kind of look like that. No, that would have been a
Yep.
flute, man. It'd have been a flute if
Yeah,
it was Andre.
I know, right?
Yeah, it just and the music, like the way it kicked in, because Ludwig, that guy is such a good
He's
composer.
a genius, man. He's
Yeah,
a fucking genius.
yeah,
I mean,
he
so is Kugler, but like they're like the equivalent, but one in music and one in the film genre.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, he knows how to pull all that stuff together. Because there was even times where I felt like some like parts of the movie in the beginning kind of felt like a little bit like a western, and then you
Hmm.
had like the way he was using Ludwig was using the harmonica to kind of echo that a little bit, because it did sound bluesy, but then there's times where it sounded like something out of like Once Upon a Time in the West or something.
Hmm.
The way Ennio Morricone used the harmonica in that.
Yep.
And I could be reaching, maybe that wasn't his intent, but that's what it sounded like that to me. Um,
Hmm.
it I don't know, that like just that's obviously easily one of the best soundtracks I think I'm going to hear this year. And
Well,
from
at least that song. I've listened. I've sat down to listen to the whole thing out of context. It doesn't have the impact like Black Panther's soundtrack did, and not even Wakanda Forever or Tenet. Like some of the tracks, Tenet is a good example where like you have these particular tracks that are huge,
yeah,
that are great because they fit an action sequence, and you almost can feel that story. Like you can see the story unfolding in your mind as you hear the music. Whereas Sinners is kind of it's very subdued until
the
the
stuff
juke
starts
joint
to go
scene,
down.
and
Yeah,
then like towards the end, and even the stuff is very atmospheric, I guess is what I'm getting at, and it fits perfectly with the action. But only the juke joint scene where everybody was in full total sync, that's the track you can really vibe to by itself. Whereas everything else, it feels like it works better when you're seeing the visuals. Because I was listening to the intro music is cool too. It's real chill. But I was listening to it before the movie came out because I always do that. I always look up the score.
yeah,
And I found a couple tracks on the actual Sinners or Ludwig. I've been subscribed to Ludwig for a minute, I think since Black Panther. And he only had two tracks on there. And both of them were atmospheric tracks. They weren't the
yeah.
bluesy stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, though, what was it like? Why Are You Here or something like that? Like, because I had heard it too
Yeah.
when it popped up before the film, and I actually dug that. So there's some atmospheric tracks I like.
Oh,
It's not something I
I
listen
can
to
listen to it.
often.
I can listen to it. I just mean like I think people who don't have that cinematic, I don't know how to describe it. If you don't usually listen to this kind of stuff, then you
Yeah,
won't. It's not going to make you start listening to it. Whereas like if you listen to Wakanda Forever or Black Panther, you're going to start looking for people that make music that sounds like that
true.
because the music hits you in a different kind of way. We never hear that. You never hear that shit on in films. And then all of a sudden it's like, what the fuck? It's like when you hear a good Bollywood score, and I mean score, not the dance number, I mean a score. You'll start to want to listen to more like Hindi music or Tamil music or something like that that has the same kind of feel to it with the rhythms and everything because that's how it hits you. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry, I
Sure.
keep on
Oh no, you're
jumping
good. You're good.
in.
You're good. But yeah, even during that scene, you've got all kinds of stuff happening in the juke. Mary shows up and Smoke sees her and is like, yo, get her out of here. Tell Stack to get her out of here. He tries to get her to go. There's fighting going on, somebody using Rick Dice, the what's her name, Perlene shows up, and Preacher Boy ends up, doing some stuff with her, some adult things.
Tossing salad.
Yeah. He gets a literal taste.
A literal taste. Good God.
Yeah.
His face was all drenched. It
Yeah.
was like, wow, okay. They were getting down. I'm like, what the fuck? They did not hold back.
He
It was
laid her
weird.
down so he could lick her up.
It's funny too because like people were saying, "Oh, I brought my whole family to see." Like, dude, what's wrong with you? It's a rated R vampire film, and you brought your whole family just because there were black people in it. What the
Yeah.
fuck is wrong with you? Like, have
Yeah.
some sense. That's like you remember when we went to see Blade. I think it was like the second or third time we went to. It was a dollar theater we went to. Remember? And there were little kids in there.
Yeah.
And when
Oh,
when
yeah.
Blade got caught and they closed that sarcophagus on him, the kids were like, "Don't die, Blade! No, please, Blade, don't die!" I'm like,
But
"Who
heck,
brought their fucking
I went to
kids?"
see Deadpool and people brought their kids to that.
Yeah, man, y'all gotta do better, man. What the fuck? Like, there's an age appropriate. Anyway, don't get me
Yeah.
started. Because as I'm getting older, I'm noticing failings all over the place. And people are like, how did it get like this? I wonder how it got like this. But anyway, juke joint, people doing all kinds of shit in there.
Yeah, and of course, all that music, that great music that's being played, it drew the vampires, and then they show up, and they're going by old school vampire rules where the vampire can't just enter wherever they want; they have to be actually invited in, and so they're
Well,
asking to
first,
come in and play so they could play their songs and whatnot, and the
mhm.
Smokestack Brothers show up at the entrance, and they're like, no, because like they don't at this point, nobody knows that they're vampires.
Yeah, they
But
just saw some
but
white folks
because
show
they're
up.
white folks, they're like, nah, you guys can't come in here because if one thing goes wrong, we got the Klan coming down on us. So they
Mhm.
tell them to basically get on before you get spit on, and they kind of leave. But
But
then
they do try to appeal to them. They do try to
yeah, yeah,
appeal to them, like from a very human standpoint. They explain they're not about the fucking Ku
it's not
Klux
about the
Klan
color.
life, and they don't give a shit about the color. They just heard good music and they wanted to join in,
And
and they
they
wanted
really
to
wanted
enjoy it.
Preacher Boy because when he showed up, he was like, it was you that I
Yeah,
heard. Like that,
like
like
your
he was
that
really,
that powerful voice is what drew them.
yeah,
Yeah, and it again, it's that through line. He's one of those people so gifted that even though his voice can, connect us, it can also attract the wrong things because they're listening for that too. But yeah, continue.
oh yeah. um, so yeah, they kind of walk off, but they're like, but we'll move real slow just so if you guys decide to change your minds. And so they take off, and then Smoke and Stack are talking up in the rafters about their earnings and that they're not even gonna be able to break even in a couple of months. They're gonna be they're gonna be in the red, and so they need to do something in order to get more money or make more money. And that's when Mary kind of gets the idea of going out there to talk to them to see if they're really about spending money in the place. And at first, Stack doesn't really want her to do it, but then she convinces her. And this is where I think where you and I were like where people are saying that she screwed things up. And this is what happens when a black man messes with a white woman,
Yeah,
and that's what I've been hearing a lot of people
me
say, and I'm
too.
like, I don't think
Like,
that's
how
the
did you get that
case.
from watching the same movie that
Yeah,
everybody else watched? Like, it's really clear that if they were not vampires, they would have just had three paying customers.
yeah,
But because they were vampires, and they also notice because they do say some things that these vampires don't just come at you with like, "Would you like to live forever? I will make you immortal." You know what I mean? It's not that kind of bullshit. You know what I mean? Are you ready to die, Blade? Um, it's not that. It's literally we. What do they say? Unity and love, or something like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Unity and love. They're saying essentially, they're all about the unity and love. Essentially, will be one family. And there is a part in the film where once all the shit goes down, that the vampires do explain like, yo, your situation is fucked. They're like, you guys can't get along. The KKK guys don't want you guys to get along. Once you start getting along, they're gonna come and mess with you. He's like, you could join us, and you don't have anything going on like that. It doesn't
we'll
matter.
go turn them and bring them in too.
Yeah, they're like, we could turn everybody into one big family, and essentially, you don't have to worry about racism. You don't have to worry about colorism. You don't have to worry about any of the shit that divides us, because we would be one fucking family. I mean, obviously, it's for all intents and purposes, it's unlife, but it's better than the life where someone's foot is on your neck, and it makes you wonder. This is what all these motherfuckers miss when they watch the movie. They're still operating with this racist mindset where they miss the unification idea and how there is a logic there that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
even people who get turned, some of the black folks that get turned, they're like, I can see it. Like, they're offering us an out. Yeah, we won't be able to see the sun, but we actually get a lot more. You know what I mean? From this. So it was kind of strange. It's extremely strange, but I expected it. As soon as I saw that this was set in the South and there was slaves involved or former slaves and Jim Crow era shit, and they're picking cotton and all, I was like, watch. Just watch. As soon as a white person shows up or a non-black someone, you guys are all going to say that the non-black people are all bad, even though the movie is showing you there are good people that aren't black and there are good people that are black, and the main characters are not good people. You know what I mean? Like, the main two of the main characters are murderers. They literally went from fighting in World War I to joining Al Capone, and who knows how many people they slaughtered, at their boss's orders. But you guys are like, he's fine. He's so fine. Like, okay, whatever. Just, do your thing.
I just I felt like with Mary, it was one of those things where, how like you have people who are, you have allies, and sometimes allies do too much and kind of screw it up because they're not fully aware of the whole situation as a whole. That's kind of what it came off to me. That
I feel like it was more of a situational thing. She heard they were lacking somewhere. And if you're in a situation where you're trying to make money and then you have people who are coming to spend money, you can't turn them away. And I think she was just like, yeah, don't turn away people. You want money, you can make money. It's 3 people here and they're all paying. Let them pay. You know what I mean? Like, let them pay. She didn't see, especially since they had established that they're not about the clan life. They're not about that hood life, that white hood life. They're not about that shit. They are about the music, and they said the togetherness. They love the togetherness of music, and you get it. There's even a creepy ass scene once they start turning everybody.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna talk about that. Yeah,
homeboy's out there river dancing and singing and shit, and then everybody's dancing around him, and they all know the words to the song. And no, it's dope and it's creepy as fuck because they were like, their expressions were so focused. It's like when you see people, if you've gone to the club and seen people get into it. And sometimes people will be popping and locking with these straight faces and shit, and we're doing it to be goofy. Like, they were serious, and it was like, shit, this is kind of weird. But like,
his river dancing was like that. Like, his feet are moving, but the rest of his body was straight still, and
his face was straight while he's singing these lyrics, and you're just like, what? And then everybody else singing with him. It almost was like he was controlling them to some degree. I mean, I know that might not have been the case. It could have been, but it felt eerie as fuck because rarely, other than maybe capoeira, when you see people in the roda, in the circle, you rarely ever hear everybody sing in unison properly like this. You rarely ever see that. Kids playing like games, when they do do they do this shit anymore? Fucking what do they call that shit? With their hands, the hand games, like patty
cake or something.
Patty cake, shit like that. Like, everybody knows the words unless you're teaching a new person. Like there's very few things that are that on point. But I mean, you guys already know the song essentially pulls in the vampires. Um, the 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 vampires first they're denied entry, but then they turn Mary, and then Mary goes back in. They let her in. She completely is able to dodge the request. She's like, you know, you're gonna let me back in there so I can go back and dance and stuff.
In
Or
a
you
way,
gonna
though, she
we gonna
was
stay
way
here?
more convincing than
Then
Cornbread was.
cornbread, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Cornbread had fucked it all up,
Cornbread
and it
kind of
was
told
funny.
on himself.
Yeah, yeah. But she goes back in, she humps Stack, and then she bites him, and then they shoot. It's so funny because his brother comes in, sees her blood all over her face and everything. He empties his freaking pistols at her. She just skedaddles on like nothing happened,
Yeah, she bolted out of
laughing and
there.
shit. She's like just laughing like nothing happened. I'm like, ew, that's this is not gonna be good. So essentially, you get that, and this is where everybody keeps saying it's from dusk till dawn, because it's the ship of fools, except you guys are stuck in one space and everybody's trying to get in, and so you got to defend your space. It's Nazi zombies or zombies from Call of Duty. You know what I mean? Where you're in a room, you got to keep on patching up the holes and pop kill things trying to get in. You know, it's that situation. Annie is the one who has the knowledge. At first, she called them hates, like hateful spirits, and then she realized, oh shit, they're vampires. So she explains some of the classic things. They even do a homage to the Thing, where everybody has to drink, eat a piece of garlic,
Garlic, yeah.
and there's a whole bunch of like, gotchas, but and I forgot to mention freaking Delta
Delroy
Slim.
Lindo.
I love Delroy Lindo.
Yeah.
Fucking, what was his name in the one? I always remember what he was saying.
Funge. Come on,
Fudge,
Funge.
fudge. That's bullshit. Fudge,
Yeah.
fudge.
And Jason Statham's horrible American accent.
I know, right? That's bullshit, sir. Shit. Yeah, it's bullshit, sir.
I can't remember his name in that movie though.
I
Yeah,
cannot remember.
I forgot it.
Rodecker. That was his name.
Yeah.
Rodecker. Rodecker. That was Jet Li kept saying that. Rodecker. Rodecker. But yeah, Delroy Lindo as Delta Slim. He's pretty dope. He's a pianist, and I'm pretty sure he could play everything. Because back in
Yeah,
those
he did
days,
the
people who
harmonica
love
too.
music, people who love music just play whatever instruments they can get their hands on. Sometimes they played household items to get the feel and the rhythm down. But everybody essentially, they get into a situation where a bunch of people, once Stack gets turned, the party is over, everybody gets sent out. Bo leaves. Bo and Grace are the Chinese couple. Bo, excuse me, he leaves to go get the car. Of course, he gets turned, and essentially, there's a whole bunch of moments that lead Grace just losing it. Just bring it on. Come in, and we're gonna fuck you up. And I heard people saying the Chinese lady fucked it up, and we're like, did you watch a different movie? It's that situation. You needed the action to happen. You needed something to happen, and that was the catalyst for it. Was essentially her husband and Remick, the main villain or the main vampire, were telling her that like, yo, if you don't let us in, we're just gonna go over to your shop and we're gonna find your daughter and bring her into the family. I missed somebody stood up in front of me when he said something in Chinese, and I couldn't see the subtitle.
He was basically saying like he basically was alluding to like because he knows what Bo knows, he knows how Bo pleasures her. He knows everything.
Oh, gotcha.
And some people were trying to say that this is how I guess white folks were able to kind of pull Asians over onto their side and kind of distance themselves from blacks because they were appealing more to I guess their to their I guess their proclivities and the whole model citizen thing.
reaching like fucking Mr.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
and
Like, come on.
that's not it. And it's funny too because the actor who plays Grace knew this was gonna happen because she
Yeah, she
asked
wanted a change made. Yeah.
yeah, she asked for some stuff to get changed. So her character wasn't as hated, but it happened anyway.
The
Um
problem is that you have scholars who only understand this stuff from one lens. They spend all their time reading about instances of these things happening, and like instances of the fetishizations of different races and things like that. But they don't actually live where you don't live it. You're not in it. You're not seeing how people actually relate. It's kind of like terminally online people versus the rest of the world. What you see online all the time is curated. There's a couple narratives, several narratives being played out in front of you on a daily basis. But the reality is different, you know? Like there's a bunch of things I could get into, you know, freaking male loneliness, fucking the what do they call that? The shit, why am I hypergamy, the women's hypergamy thing, and like the gaming violence and the toxicity and all that shit, you know, like you hear these buzzwords all the time, but in actual practice it's not exactly like that, you know, like there's toxicity in gaming, of course, but it's not everywhere. It's in certain circles, you know what I mean, because there are games that are extremely positive. It's just those aren't the games anybody's talking about because they're not as popular with new players. They're popular with the people who have. Was that you?
yeah, sorry.
Yeah, they're popular with the groups that have already been playing those games. So like, even though these things exist, they don't exist to the degree that you're led to believe if you're constantly online. It's the same thing with these instances that you read in this book from 20 or 30 years ago. Or it could have even been a book from recently. That's somebody's experience. It's not everybody's experience, you know? So it's fucked up that somehow you watch this experience and then you try to put it on all of the people who fit the two demographics that
Yeah.
were in there. Look at the example that's being given to you right now. Look at that. It's an instance. Look at that instance. That's it. Don't try to put all this on all these other people because like you've got it. You're married to an Asian woman. Your experience isn't the same as that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
And there's videos of that time period, or not that time period, but way later in the Delta where you have Chinese kids who got along with black kids,
yeah.
and one kid was they had one kid who was playing in a pool with a bunch of black girls, and she was like, and she like all she was saying was like, I don't care. I don't care what color you are. As long as you're nice to me, I'm nice to you, that sort of thing. Like
And that's the
it
prevailing logic, honestly, in a lot of places. I remember when I was in school, I had teachers, Hispanic teachers that taught history. I had one, mostly Hispanic teachers and one Jewish teacher. And when they showed us these things about that time period, that's the kind of stuff they showed us that they were like, you're going to hear it was like this. But the reality is, it was like this. And they show you other things that don't fit the narrative that you were led to believe. Our school system, like how many Asian people talk about not knowing that there were Asians in the South
yeah.
during slavery and shit? Like, where have you been? You don't know the history of your own country? Like, if you're an Asian American, you should know how long, you know, Japanese and Chinese people been here. They also got brought here in some cases against their will, just like we did. Like, this is truth. This isn't about favorites and shit like that, you know? Irish also, you know, you had the same colonizing ass Spaniards and British that fucked with the Irish and did all kinds of stuff. You think the Irish people love the British? Ask them.
Yeah.
Ask them, and you'll find out that it's a whole different story. You also find out there's a connection between the Irish and the Choctaw. The Choctaw tried to help the Irish during times where they were being oppressed by the British, where essentially the British were using the Irish as like Ireland as the breadbasket to fund or to feed their soldiers as they take them to different places to do their usual bullshit. Like,
Hell, there's a connection between blacks and First Nation
of
people. I
course,
don't know. I don't know which tribe specifically. I can't remember, but and it
there's
sucks
more
too
than
because
one.
some of
Yeah,
those, yeah, there's and some of those tribes actually refuse to acknowledge that that they've got history and there's been intermixing of
of course.
both races. Um, yeah, it kind of it could just kind of blows that there's this weird we have this somehow somewhere at some point there's all this division.
And it's politicians and people with like the real power that have created these narratives to kind of divide everybody. Because you see how easily, like,
Yeah,
people don't understand that, like, you should never be in a hurry to fit in a box. You don't want to ever check all the boxes on anything except being maybe a man, a woman, being a good citizen to some degree, to your fellow man, a good parent, something like that. You know what I mean? Like a good partner to whoever your partner is, like that kind of shit. But like, just because your skin tone is, whatever, you don't have to check off all the boxes that you were, designed, the boxes that fit a role that was designed for you. Because it's just dumb. Like, who wants to fit a prepackaged design? And like when you see the discourse on this film, there's a ton of that. Um, what was the other thing? Hispanics. I heard somebody on fucking TikTok or something was saying Hispanics are angry because they weren't included. This story is not about you. It
yeah,
doesn't take place in an area that had a high concentration of Hispanics, but they did show in that sequence when Bo and Grace's daughter was sent to go get Grace. She walked from the black side of the street, or
the minority
the
side.
minority side of the street, to the white side of the street. That's
Yeah,
what we
because
were dealing with.
they
There's a
had a tamale shop
Tamale King, yeah,
on
or
the
King
on the
Tamales or something like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
And you're there, you just weren't the focus. We need to stop focusing so hard on just having representation without the logic that actually supports the representation. This is the problem. This is why people run around calling everything woke, because there's so many of you who just you buy the bullshit wholesale. And so as long as they just throw all the things and check off all the boxes, you guys are like, yeah, that's great. Like Freaky Tales. No, it's not great. It's not great at all. Freaky Tales had so much shit that was not common. I know tons of people from the Oakland area. I went to school with some when I was at the School of Visual Arts in New York. I had tons of classmates who had family and they would like do summers and stuff in Oakland. And I've read tons of stories because there's tons of artists and musicians from that area. And if you hear their accounts, it's nothing like what shows up in that film. I mean, aspects are, but most of it is not. But everyone's like, it's accurate because it had all the things. The dude even, one of the characters even spouted a line that sounded like some social justice warrior type bullshit when he's talking about fascism and homophobia. I was like, whoa, this is 1987. What are we watching? It just, ooh. But you don't want to check off all the boxes. Everybody, all these experiences are so different that you cannot just confine them to like a couple of pre-designed areas. You know what I mean? Like you have to have a more nuanced take on all this shit.
Yeah, you can't always be inclusivity for the sake of inclusivity. And I'm all for inclusivity, but yeah,
Of course.
it's not always necessary in every single thing that comes out.
Yeah, I
Like,
agree. I agree. You need to be a captive audience to the stories of other groups of people. Every group doesn't have everything in it. If you go to Brazil, you'll get a whole bunch of people. It won't be what you guys think here in America, all the Gen Z and the younger millennials that want everything to look a certain way. Nah, because we're all mutts. We know, and we know it. We don't care how you think about it. We know what our heritage is. You know what I mean? So like you can't go to like that footage of it was a press conference for some movie with Mads Mikkelsen, and he was there with the director of the film, and it's like a Norwegian story, and they were talking about representation. And they were like, what are you talking about? They're like, oh, there's no black people, no Latino. He was like, nah, we're not doing that. The movie takes place in Norway. There's not many, at this
Yeah.
time, there weren't many black or anything else. And what are we doing? And it's like, you know, to hear people completely dismiss such a good story because black and because Hispanic and because what, stop. Like, just listen to the story and enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like, enjoy that shit. That's what it's there for. But the everyone essentially that leaves pretty much gets turned.
Yeah.
It's like you literally
They
went
they
out of
must
the
have
frying
been
pan.
working. They must have
Yeah.
been just biting the shit out of everybody and then quickly
Just
move on to
spearing
the next
people.
person. Because
Just
I don't know
spearing
how
folks.
3 people turned that many people in such a short amount of time. And
4.
some people had cars too.
Yeah, they didn't get to their cars. You could tell.
Yeah.
They didn't get to their cars. Or if they got to their cars, somebody was waiting.
Yeah.
Because they were getting snatched up, man. And so like everybody turned, and it got to the point where they're taunting the folks, trying to convince them to be let in. And like I said, Grace has a moment with Remick and her husband, or what her husband has become,
singing outside the outside the juke, and that sets her off.
Yeah,
I forgot what the song was they were singing, but
me too. It was dope. Like, all the music was dope
and shit. Yeah.
All the music was dope. It's funny. In the beginning of the movie, they explain that the what do they call them? Phillies, griots, and fire kings were the different groups. I think the Phillies were from the Irish, griots were from Africa, and the fire kings were from the Choctaw. They're the people with the voices that can essentially, the magical voices essentially. And the simple fact that before you ever watch anything in the film, they just showed you a connection that all these groups have. It should have been obvious that it wasn't the point of the movie. This is also why I don't feel like it's full on horror. It feels more like drama that has horror elements in it, supernatural horror elements in it. They're literally showing you that all these characters have some kind of unifying trait or unifying, I don't want to say ideology, but they have equivalents, I guess, to each other, you know? And music is one of those things that people say is a universal language. And that was the focus of this film. The vampires are offering an alternative, and this alternative is dark and kind of fucked up. But it makes sense that some people would be like, yeah, fuck yeah, I do this. Then you see that the other alternative is to just kind of suffer through it, which it just mirrors the way life was for the folks of color, especially the Africans at that time. I guess they would be they weren't considered African Americans at that time, or at least they were beginning to be. But under the whole Jim Crow thing. And then there's that weird situation with people who look like Mary. You have half that say one drop and you're black. But then at the time, because it wasn't blatantly obvious, he could actually move easily between both sides.
And that was also the danger, because if they did find out, then she's done.
She's done. She's done. And there's historical evidence of that as well. And there's historical figures all throughout time that, you know, leading up to, I'm talking about before the abolishing of slavery, that if they had one drop, it was erased when you see any type of like image of them, like paintings, or when they write about them, they leave that stuff out. You know, there's musicians like isn't there there's a picture that shows, is it Beethoven? One of the classical
you talking about Chevalier?
It might be him.
The guy who plays the violin?
No, this was a pianist.
Oh.
But one of them, it shows as black. If you see the picture, he looks very black in the picture. But they said that I know he's black. It's not proven, but people say it's this crazy idea. But if you see these pictures, there's black and white images of him, and his hair and everything looks like he's black. Even his skin tone is darker, but they have a very heavy light source. Um, but there's others. Chevalier's one. There's novelists that were they were black. They were mixed because they were one parent was like a free Haitian I don't know, business person, ended up mixing or marrying a French somebody, and obviously they have mixed kids. There's so much of this throughout the world that I think in America, because of a lot of things, also because of the lack of education on a whole bunch of
deliberate
topics,
lack.
it's on purpose. It's designed. People don't understand that, like, right down to the fact that America is the last place where slavery was like dealt with. You know what I mean? Like, we were one of the last groups. I mean, it's still going on. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not talking about figuratively, but it's back in Europe and parts of India and the Middle East and fucking like Dubai. Like, come on now. Like, the shit's still going on. It didn't go anywhere. It's just that the last time it was a big deal was in America. Slavery's old as shit. But when we have the conversation and when we have things that involve it, you have a lot of Black Americans who act like it's unique to us here in America. And then also the weird parts of, I mean, this is why the reparations thing can't work, because if these slaves get it, or these descendants of slaves get it, then what happens to all the current slaves? Like, do they get something? Are you gonna now move on and be like, yo, no one should have, I mean, no one should be a slave? How do you deal with the fact that that's the part that no one's talking about? How do you deal with what exists already? What's existing right now when it comes to that? But back to Mary's mixed. And the whole moving between two worlds, the Asian people could do that. Even in other stories, you would hear of Hispanic people who could do it. They could move between both. There's one of my favorite Westerns is the original Django. And I think he was half Mexican. That was the whole point of the story. So he got the shit kicked out of him by his fellow soldiers, because I want to say he was a Confederate soldier. Hold on, I'm gonna look this up. The original Django. Why does Django Fett come up before the original fucking movie? The fuck?
Because that's more popular.
That's some bullshit.
That is the SEO at work.
Yeah, some bullshit.
A good old search engine optimization.
The original one is so much. It's way older. It came out in 1966, and you got to search underneath Django Unchained and Django Fett to get to, man, fuck out of here. That's some bullshit. That is some fine bullshit.
Plus, it's May, and you got May the 4th coming up.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, he's a Union soldier, and he's half Mexican, and essentially he gets kind of pulled in between it because of the fact that I think he defects from there, if I remember correctly. Yeah, because he stands up. You should watch it. It's kind of dope, and the theme song is fucking. It's just fire. The dude's singing his life out, man. Like, this shit is so good. God, what the fuck? I'm trying to remember all the information, but yeah, he was a Union soldier. But yeah, he was of Mexican heritage, and of course, the white soldiers that were fighting alongside him didn't like that. So, of course, that was a problem. That was one of the problems shown in the film. It's not unique to the Asian people, and it's not unique to the mixed Black and white people that they can move between both sides, because it was two very distinct worlds. The movie makes a point to show it to you. Several lines spoken by vampires and lines spoken by other white characters in the film let you know that there's two different schools of thought. Remick is shown to not like the KKK. His whole idea his approach changed in his introduction in a couple minutes from "help me, I'm a dude like you" to "oh, KKK, I got to give you money because you don't like different people." Um, and then of course you get to see the real KKK dudes when they show up after all the shit goes down. Actually, you see it in the beginning when they're buying the place,
Yeah.
calling them boys, and they had to get gully with them, be like, yeah, there's only grown men here, and we got grown men money and grown men bullets. I was like, yeah, you got to let them know sometime. But people have a very strange perspective on the way that race works because the people who had to deal with that shit aren't happy to hear that they're not black enough for one side and white enough for the other. And that's a problem in this country that like we can speak to it. Oh, you speak white. Oh, you mean because I can read and I pronounce my words correctly? Oh, thank you for that. Even though I know exactly where my heritage comes from, I'm speaking white. That's cool. You always hearing low IQ black folks give you shit for doing things correctly. Like you speak like a slave in 2025. Why are you still speaking like a slave? Those days are long gone. You remind us every day, but somehow you hold on to that shit. It's the same logic when they deal with Mary's characterization. Like you keep hearing, oh, she fucked everything up. No, she didn't. The vampires came and fucked everything up while offering a way out to make the people who are suffering a little bit stronger and kind of take away the problem that they all are dealing with. And that's one of the philosophies that's thrown in there. There's like, it's this weird, how do you put it? It's like true freedom, I guess, in a dark kind of way, because what connects you is deeper than your skin. You know what I mean? Like that's what they're trying. It's kind of like when you see like monks and stuff. That's kind of like what they would do with that too. You're connected by something deeper than just your skin. So it's not her. I wouldn't say that it's her fault because if you notice, nobody holds Preacher Boy. When you listen to the reviews and you listen to people's, you know, assessments of the movie, nobody says anything about Preacher Boy.
True.
It's Preacher Boy's fault that the vampires even came in the first place. But you don't see it because you want to focus on hating the people who aren't black. Like it's dumb and it's telling. It's kind of like on the flip side, did you notice that the some of the biggest mouths of they're grifters, but they're like some of the biggest mouths when it comes to a movie coming out didn't review the movie. They just in one of their reviews they mentioned, "Oh, Sinners came out. It was a good movie. Let's move on to the thing."
Yeah. I saw a Critical Drinker, or maybe I think he tweeted.
Yeah.
It was a good film, and I was actually surprised. There was somebody at my job
Look at the
told me.
comments.
I didn't. Well, I just saw somebody showed me at work that because we talk about him all the time about how wacky he is, and I was surprised to see that. But then I was like, of course he has to say that because his fucking proof of concept was trash. His
Oh
proof
my
of concept
god.
movie was garbage. It was like it was all the generic tropes that of action movies all rolled into a
Everything that he
48-minute
hates,
thing.
everything he supposedly hates was on display in that movie.
The girl boss character overpowering a dude, all of that shit. Which I was like, okay, this is why I can't stand these guys.
It's funny, it's all across the board. All of them ignored that and they talked about Daisy Ridley's movie that sucked ass,
Yeah,
Cleaner, I think it's called, so that
yeah,
they could bitch about the girl boss stereotype. They all talked about Thunderbolts. They all talked about, some of them even talked about fucking Freaky Tales because it came out around the same time. And it's weird because it's like you guys are all talking about everything except for the movie that actually is probably one of the best things that's come out this year.
yeah.
And
And that's
it
what
may
they
be the
do
best.
when something is when something that they could use as a go woke, go broke narrative does well, then they back off or they quickly pivot to something else because
Well, I
their
don't think
argument is
Sinners fits
lost.
that, but I don't think Sinners fits the go woke, go broke
Well,
narrative.
there was a grifter who said that it was woke because they had the KKK in the end show up, and I was like, but that was the time. It's a
I know.
period piece. The
God,
KKK were pretty prevalent back then,
yeah.
so it would be weird to not have them show up.
And if they didn't put those in there, if they didn't put them in there, then you all would have bitched that it wasn't authentic enough because the KKK wasn't in. I hate it. I'm telling you, I hate it with a
You
passion.
can't win or lose. You're just damned. You're
The
damned if you do,
movie,
damned if you don't.
the movie does a good job of showing you that the Klan was everyone's enemy. Everyone's enemy. The Irish guys didn't like the Klan.
Hell, to this day,
Don't
I was
like the Klan.
watching Double
The
Toasted
vampires don't
one
like the Klan.
day. Yeah, yeah, the vampires don't like
Yeah,
the clan either, and
I meant to.
Corey was, huh, huh.
I made a playlist of like
Oh.
all. Well, I made a queue of all of the reviews, and I'm at them now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean their review was all right. I didn't really there wasn't really too much I had a problem with. I just thought it was funny that like cuz he told a story about how he was in a bar and he ran into some like straight up Irish dudes and they were chatting him up and they were going on and on about because they were obviously very drunk. They were going on and on about how like yeah we need to come together, Irish people and black people and blah blah blah.
Remember that happened to us?
Oh yeah,
Remember that
yeah,
time we went to what was that Frog Bear and Wild Boar,
yeah.
and we met those Irish dudes, and they were talking. He was like, Christ, look at the size of you. He said, my God, you're all so big here. And the dude was cool as fuck. Him and his friends, they seemed really cool. Like I have never had an issue with anyone I've ever met from. God, I was about to be real raunchy. I even got with a chick from Wales, and no issues, none whatsoever. I mean, it obviously wasn't a long relationship, but it was kind of nice. Kind of nice. She was built, so it was nice. But very nice, very nice. But yeah, it's one of those things where I don't. Well, let me let you finish, and then I'll chime.
Oh no, no, that was pretty much it. I was just like it's weird when I see Irish people be like it's weird when I see Irish people being racist. Like I've seen videos of Irish people, but that's in Ireland, like
Mm-hmm.
being intolerant towards like say like a
Mixed
Hispanic
race
person or
folks.
something like
Yeah.
that. Because usually they're all seems like they're all about having more in common with us than with Europeans.
Well, it seems like just like over here, you have Americans that have really fucked up views. It's the same thing across the board. And I wish that more people would. I wish more people would take the time to like recognize that it's the version that you hate is one of many types of whatever it is you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like there are black folks that are fucking intolerable. There's black folks that bring down all of us because they constant YNs and shit with their shiesties and all that
Yeah.
bullshit. There's so many people who think that that's all of us. Like that's not. Man, I have the slowest, most regular ass life. You know what I mean? I spend all my time between work and home with my family. I'm not putting on no fucking shiesty. I want to rob anybody. What the fuck is that about? But there's people who believe that's all of us. You know what I mean? There's people. There's Asian people who hate everybody who's not Asian,
Or
and
hate
then
other Asians.
and then hate other Asians too. And then there's Asians who love everyone who isn't Asian. You know what I mean? There's Asian
Yeah.
people I know that want to be black. I know Asian people that want to be back home. I know Asians that want to be fucking Italian. Like I know all kinds of people who fall in all these different, spaces kind of because it's just one type of all the different people. So it just kills me when I was watching these reviews and it was some people just couldn't get out of their own fucking way and their heads are in their asses when it comes to just racial relations in the United States. And the fact that they just don't know anything about anything outside of their little bubble. And when you hear them speak, the amount of ignorance that's shown just shows you how small the bubble is. And it's like, dude, just go out and actually live some life. Go hang out with some people who don't look like you so you can understand what the rest of the world is like. You know what I mean? You get at least a better idea. Read up on other cultures. But it's just not.
Yeah.
This is going to be another one of those situations where it's like Black Panther. Everybody wanted to be African for a day. For a day, a week, or a couple weeks. Everybody was coming out in dashikis and shit. There were no fucking African booty scratchers and shit. None of the African slur, at least not amongst Black people, because all of a sudden $1 million, $1 billion movie, now you want to pretend like somehow that actually applies to you when, in school, all the kids darker than you were African booty scratchers and, fucking wearing grass skirts at home and bones in their nose and anything you could think of that was a negative stereotype. You had the Black American kids saying it. But when it was about a superhero that's the king of fucking Wakanda, now you want to partake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the same shit. It's always like this. It's like it always takes a thing for you to recognize that, like, oh, wait a second, it's not exactly what I thought it was. It's a little bit better than that. Oh, this is actually cool. You want to talk about the end of the movie? Like how all the resolution of the movie, if you will.
You're talking about the very, very end, or
not the post credit. I just mean how everything wraps up from the juke joint. Because I know.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, after the vampires basically break in, well, like they get in because Grace called him out and told him to come in so she could get her revenge. I mean, and the way she went out was like, damn, like she was still on fire, stabbing her husband. Like that was a very memorable shot.
Yeah. I was like, damn,
yeah,
man.
they're a whole, they're the whole brawl breaks out, and everybody's basically fighting to survive. Smoke and Stack are end up upstairs. They're trying to kill each other. And
I know,
then
right?
Rennick goes after Preacher Boy because he basically tells him how he wants all of his stories, his music, the thing that links all of us together or whatever. He wants that, and in order to get it, he has to turn him because he basically explains how he's been on this earth for, I want to say, like hundreds of years at this point, or it's been a very, very long time. Because at one point when he's about to bite him, Preacher Boy starts praying, my Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And then Rennick starts to repeat what he's saying, because the same thing was, because when I want to say maybe it was the Crusades or I don't know, it was some
Crusade.
It was the Crusades. Okay, so because the Crusade soldiers said the same thing to him as they were pillaging and plundering wherever he lived in Ireland, which I thought was kind of interesting because it shows how African Americans are indoctrinated into Christianity because of how it's spread across the whole world.
Exactly.
So I thought that was kind of a nice touch.
It was even used in Africa to get other other Africans to enslave their own.
Yeah.
It was like, forget about our gods, our original gods, the gods we prayed to back in those days, and take up this new guy, Jesus Christ. Like, listen to this guy, and it's like, it's kind of fucked up because they'd come in like, oh, what is this about? And then, yoink, you're on a ship and you're somewhere else. Like, it's fucked up when you think about it. And it's another piece that people ignore when they talk about this. They talk about it like fucking, like the Silver Surfer was enslaving, or like the White Surfer was flying around just enslaving all of Africa by himself. This mystical white guy was floating through every nation and just like fucking Santa Claus was flying through on a magic sleigh, enslaving all black skinned folks from Africa by himself. And it's like, yo, it didn't work like that. This ignorance is how you ended up with the Woman King. How the fuck did you end up with that movie? Where the Dahomey were like terrible, fucking terrible. And so many of you were turning out the same way you did for Black Panther without even checking. You didn't even fact check. Like, what? Who were the Dahomey? You just saw
Yeah, that was why
Black.
Lupita didn't do the movie, was because of
Yeah,
that.
because she knew what was going on. And when I saw it, I told somebody at work. They were like, "Oh, we going to see the Woman King tonight." I was like, "Are you sure you really want to go watch that movie? Do you know what they did? What you mean?" And I was like, "They kind of were a big part of the slave trade in that area, and they were like fucking psychos when it came to like mutilating like fellow, African men and shit." And they were like, "Man, I don't want to know about all that. I just want to watch a movie." And I was like, "You're paying somebody. You're paying into the success of a movie that's a complete repackaging of history, like our history." But it's the way it works, man. People don't want to know what's really going on. They only want to go with the narrative that sounds like it works, that feels like it works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it sucks. It really sucks because if one thing I can say for like other minorities that come to the US, a lot of times they know their history, they know their family,
Hell,
they know
sometimes
their
they know
lineage,
our history better than
and they
we
know
do.
ours better than us in many cases. Yeah. And it sucks because being told your own history from people who didn't live it or people who aren't really as connected to it as you would like to be sometimes feels kind of weird because it's like, yo, I should know. And I'm sure other people feel that way, like it. You down deep down, you probably feel like, man, I wish I had known this. But all you have to do is step outside of the norm and go and research, read about your ancestry.
You don't
I
even
got
have to look that hard either. Like you can, like if
not
instead
these
of being
days. Yeah,
on, well, I'm saying like, yeah, like today, like you can just go on. There's so many
yeah,
people doing like TikTok and Instagram channels where they talk about these kinds of historical things that aren't taught in school or aren't or
yeah.
sugar coated,
Yep.
in our education
Sanitized.
system. Yeah,
Yep.
so you don't even have to look that far. And then once you get that info, you can then use that as a jump off point and do your own, like you can do your own research because now you have something to go off of.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's not that hard, but I think movies like this should serve as a catalyst for people to go and find out more about these kinds of events, the connections between these groups and like, different things. It shouldn't be a deterrent, because I've noticed a whole bunch of people are like, I don't care what anybody say. This is what happened. And we're like, yeah, that's not what happened. Not at all. You got it wrong. And it's so many that got it wrong. There was more in the story that speaks to unification than division. They show that there's a clear division. There are several clear divisions, but they like more when you see all the people Smoke and Stack go and talk to and how their world was, like who they grew up around and all that stuff, they were all unified by the circumstance.
Yeah.
And that's typically how it works. I remember my grandma used to say, and I know others probably have heard this too. You find out who your friends really are in bad times because they're the ones that stick by you, and they're the ones that like, I don't know, they'll lend a helping hand without thinking. You know what I mean? Like they're not expecting anything from you. They just see you in need and they give or they help, without any problems. The fake friends will disappear. They're like, yo, every man for themselves. Let's get out of here. I got to figure out for myself. And you see it in this. Like there are characters who just ran off, and then there are characters who, because they grew up together, because they've been through some of the same stuff, they stayed together till the end. They stayed there. They died together. A whole bunch of them died together. So I don't know how anybody could watch this movie and miss all that stuff. So the final, because I know we we segued like a motherfucker when we just now talk. Really the final piece, but the twins fight, and we believe that they killed each other in the juke joint while it's burning down. Perlene gets killed. Annie asks Smoke to make sure that she doesn't get to turn into one of those things, because she establishes to the audience that the difference between a vampire and a hate is like an evil spirit, and
That takes your body.
it takes the body and controls it, whereas the vampire keeps your souls trapped in the body, and then you're stuck here doing evil shit, or doing whatever. And she doesn't want to be like that. She wants to take her place, mainly with their kid that they lost. And
Yeah, because she does say like, "I've got somebody waiting on me," and she's
yeah,
referring to her kid.
referring to the kid that they lost, because you do see Smoke when he first gets home. He stops at this small shack, and outside the shack, under a tree, is a grave, and it's not obvious yet what whose grave that is. But as time goes on and you hear more conversation, you get the idea.
Yeah, because
Um,
there's a little stone, and on the stone is a little handprint, the baby's
yep.
handprint. Yeah,
And so when she gets turned, I think Stack fights her, and
yeah.
he kills her. He doesn't want to, but he ends up, staking her, and she dies. And then the two of them fight. You're believing that they die. Um, Delta Slim sacrifices himself to get Preacher Boy some time so that he can get away. Preacher Boy gets outside and gets snatched up by Remick and all the others. And Remick drags him into a lake that's nearby the juke joint. And he's kind of drowning him while, telling him what he needs him for. And Preacher Boy prays, dude prays with him, and he explains how those words used to be comforting. But he's like, those are the same words that I heard when they were enslaving my people, or mistreating my people or whatever. And Preacher Boy hits him in the head with the guitar, the very same guitar that his dad had taken from him in the beginning of the film. Because you find out, like, Preacher Boy went to his bed, then look under the bed to get his guitar, and it was gone. And he goes into the church, and his dad had it sitting up next to the pulpit or whatever. And I think he was given the guitar by the twins. And one of the twins lied to him about who it came from, when in reality I think they said it came from like a famous guitar player, when instead it actually came from their dad. But the silver in it hurt Remick, so he couldn't pull it out of his head. And so it gave Smoke enough time to show up and then run him through with the stake. And then everybody else starts to feel the pain, because you're killing the alpha, and so all the betas essentially have to feel the effects. And then the sun starts to come up, so they all start burning alive. And Remick, instead of burning alive and turning to ash and that's it, he actually he burns up and turns into a spiral column of fire and flies back up into the sky. So who knows where the fuck he went. Which lets you know that he's more than just a standard vampire, Preacher Boy, essentially him and Smoke kind of try to collect themselves after all this shit that just went down. And essentially Smoke is like, yo, you need to go home, take the car, blues again. Don't ever do this shit. And you could tell Preacher Boy is still like, yeah, no one's gonna tell me now. So you can just tell, despite all the horror he just saw, he's like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. So he leaves, he goes back home. He only has a piece of the guitar in his hands, and his dad is in the middle of a sermon, and everybody sees him all slashed up. They see Preacher Boy with scars on his face, and like His clothes is all jacked up. There's blood all over him and stuff. And essentially, the dad takes the opportunity to use that as like visual aid to confirm things that he's been saying. And then he wants Preacher Boy to renounce his musical interests in front of the church. And of course, you can see there's conflict there because dude wants to please his dad. He wants to, believe that he's doing the right thing. You know what I mean? But he knows that he can't pull himself away from the blues. So he just leaves. Then it cuts back to Smoke. Smoke goes into the truck.
Well, at first he tries to roll a cigarette and he's
locker.
just shaking. Like
he's too shook. Yeah, he's way too shook.
Which I thought was a good callback to the very beginning of the movie when Stack rolls a cigarette and they're smoking and they're passing it back and forth.
Yeah.
Because now like his brother's gone.
Yeah, like legit gone. He also kept his brother's necklace. They both had necklaces. One had like a coin. The other one had roots or something that was wrapped up that was given to him by Annie. And she had explained that it would protect him. And they show it too, because Stack tries to bite his brother and he can't get close to him. He tries to get close, but it won't work. It's like something is repelling him. And it turned out that it's that necklace. So he pulls the necklace, he pulls both necklaces off as if he's ready to go. Like he doesn't want protection. And then he goes into his footlocker, pulls out a fucking Thompson and
sniper rifle.
Pistol, a sniper rifle, loads it up. The KKK guys show up with the guy who sold them the place, and all the doors to the juke joint are locked. And then they start getting picked off one by one. And then he literally just takes out the whole crew. It's like 20 guys. And he just militaries his way through all of them. Like he's laying down off in the distance in the out of ammo in that slow-mo shot from the trailer shows where he walks towards them and he's unloading the Tommy gun on them. And then he throws a grenade inside one of the vehicles as the guy's trying to escape, blows up a bunch of them. Someone shoots him in the spleen or the liver or whatever, like in the side. And he just takes it and continues popping folks. And he shoots down the main guy, leaves him for last. He doesn't kill him immediately. And he asked the dude for a cigarette. The dude's calling him all these names and shit. And he gets the cigarette, and he's finally the wound starts to like take its toll because he's bleeding out. And he sits down, and as he's sitting down, he looks over and he sees Annie breastfeeding their baby. And she's like clad in white. And everyone, I mean, you'd have to be really stupid to not know what's going on. Like he's dying, and he's seeing the other side, and he's seeing someone he has that someone that's tethered to him, essentially a spirit that would have been tethered to him had he lived. And she's like, he puts the cigarette in his mouth from the other guy, and she's like, she doesn't want the smoke, doesn't want the baby inhaling that smoke. So he takes the cigarette out of his mouth and he goes to reach for the baby, and he hears the guy talking shit, and then he empties
money.
Yeah. He's talking shit. I'll give you more money, blah, blah, blah. And he says something else negative, and dude just empties the rest of the ammo, the Tommy gun in
it was almost like he was bugging him, like, I'm about to hold my baby. The guy's like trying to talk to him. He's like, shut up.
Like shut up and
just dumps on him.
He just dumps out all the rest of the ammo, kills the dude, and then reaches over. And what's cool, mentioned this earlier, there's several scenes where he didn't do it in post. He did it analog. He actually shot the scenes in different formats.
Yeah.
So when you're watching the movie, to get the most out of the scene, the aspect ratio will change. It'll either be taller or it'll be wider.
Yeah.
And there's other subtle changes to like the exposure and things like that. Depth of field. I mean, these are all things you see in other movies, but typically movies of this period that display this time period do not use these techniques. He does this shot where when Smoke looks over at Annie the first time, he's dirty and he's got blood on him and he's struggling. After he kills the dude and then he looks back over, he's healthy. He's everything is bright and like overexposed. The green in the background is super vivid. Everything is like it's clearly it's heaven. He's going, you know, and you can see it. It's subtle because it's not overexposed like it's not like the Matrix versus the real world in the Matrix films, or it's not like slow-mo versus the real world in Dread, because you know when they use slow-mo, everything slowed down to that ridiculous shutter speed, and then the colors were so vibrant and shiny and everything was dope looking. It's not quite there, but it's somewhere in between as far as the color goes.
Hello? Uh-oh.
I uh Buddy Guy, actual blues legend. So for folks who actually listen to the blues, you will recognize the voice and you'll recognize the style. And he's playing a guitar that looks exactly like what he had back in the day with the silver disc in the center, and he's in a bar named Perline's, like a club named Perline's, and you see him wrap up a set. People are loving the music. You can hear he's like in his 60s or something, so he's like old, maybe even his 70s. He's old, but you can tell it's Preacher Boy because he's still got 3 scars from the claw marks from Remick. And anyway, as they're closing up, the bouncer comes back to him and says, "There's some people they're offering money to come in and talk to you." And he's just like, "Yeah, sure, let him in," as if he almost knew exactly who it was to some degree.
Yeah, because it was like at first he was like, "I don't care," then he stopped and was like, "Oh
yeah,
shit!"
He's like, "Oh shit, it's probably them."
Yeah,
and they come in and it's fucking Mary and Stack. And you're like, holy shit, they didn't die. Because you don't see Mary after the running away and some of the scenes. You see her slightly burn, but you don't ever see her actually die. And that's a rule that you see in a lot of films. And the same thing goes for Stack. They cut away from him when he's fighting his brother, and you believe that he died, but you don't see the death. So if you don't see the death, rule it out. They're probably alive. I think it's the knees because he's got like a flat top or Gumby or some shit, and he's got those
like
the 4-knuckle ring, you know? Yeah, and freaking Haley Steinfeld, she looked good. I was like, shit, that's like the girls when I was in like 8th grade. I remember girls looking like that and us being like, holy shit,
yeah,
man,
the hoop
that's
earrings and everything.
Yeah, man, that's what we wanted. I seen them of all colors, shapes, and flavors, like all of them. The Hispanic ladies, the Haitian ladies, the Polish lady, like everybody, all the girls dressed like that back in the time. They got it right. And Stack had a busy ass sweater on, and they used to wear those busy sweaters,
like a Coogee sweater or something.
Yeah, and
Dr. Huxtable looking sweater.
That's a Theo Huxtable sweater. It was bad, but it was a throwback that was on point, like 100% on point.
And it was the Pan African colors too.
Yeah, exactly. So it was really cool in a sense because it was like, unlike, I have to keep saying it, unlike Freaky Tales, Coogler lived through the 90s. So he saw what the fashion was like. And so did probably most of the cast. So they all know what the time looked like. So they can accurately, portray it on screen. Whereas the other film, it felt like they have a vague memory of what it looked like, or they didn't actually engage. They just kind of assume that this is what it looked like based on music videos or something that they saw, and that's what you get. You get kind of like the assumed version of it and not the authentic version of it. But anyway, the two vampires show up, and essentially he's like, "Yo, I guess it's my time." So he's kind of like ready to go. And dude's Stack is like, "Yo, we can, you smell." Essentially, he smells death on him.
Yeah.
Like he smells that he's old and he's getting ready to die, and he's like, "I could turn you." Then shit. I prefer the live, the real. That's what he called it, right? The
Wait.
real. And he was like, can you sit? You know what I'm talking about?
Sorry, you had cut out, so I didn't hear anything you had said.
Oh,
Up until the part where you
he
said he smelled death on him.
yeah, he said Stack says something like, I never liked the recorded shit, the
Oh yeah,
recorded
yeah.
sound. I prefer the real. And he asked him to play a song. So he plays the song I think that he played when he first revealed that he was good at playing guitar, and that's what he wanted to do. And you can tell they still have the friendship is still there. You know what I mean? Even though now the dude's completely different in a way because he's become a vampire and he's been alive for what, 60 some odd years, and he hasn't changed like physically since then. And you find out that essentially his brother made him promise that he
would
wouldn't
leave him
kill him.
alone, and
He'd leave him alone. And kind of look over him, watch him, but don't hurt him. And he agreed to it. So all these years they've been keeping tabs on him until he's getting ready to die, and that's why he offered him the choice, immortality or just die like a regular dude. And then they listen to him, and then they get up to leave. And then Future Boy asks him, or he tells him that essentially
up until the sun went
up
down,
on
that was like the
yeah,
greatest day of his
the
life.
greatest day of his life. I mean, he did everything essentially. I
Yeah.
I almost want to believe that the Perlene was the first chick he was with because Stack was talking to him in the car about what to do with a girl, things you should try. Remember, he told him like he said
How to lick it like
how to
ice
lick
cream.
it like
Not
ice
too
cream, but
hard, but
not yeah. Yeah, he gave him
but you
some
don't want to.
pointers.
You don't want it to go away too quick.
Yeah. So you see their reaction to it, even Mary, and all of them kind of had this like unified, like, yeah, it
Like,
was a great day. And he says, yeah, he asked him if it was the same for him. And Stack is like, yeah, it was the last time I saw the sun. He was like, last time I was with my brother. He was like, yeah, it was a good day. And then he leaves. And you're like, wow, that seems kind of like bittersweet because homeboy's at the end of his life. And we all know what happened when the sun went down that day because that's what the movie is about. Um, but it was nice that it wasn't one of those meaningless, hey, we're about to start the Sinners cinematic universe.
yeah.
Like, mid-credit scene. And then after that, they show him singing in the car.
No, he's in the church.
Yeah, he is in the church. You're
Yeah, he's
right.
in the
And
church
he's
singing "This Little Light of
singing This
Mine."
Little Light of Mine. Yep. And it's just like everything felt meaningful. And I think that's what hit everybody so hard is that every line, every scene, every it's not like They grew up together. Most of the characters had grown up together, so they all kind of have a deeper relationship with one another, which was pretty cool. And there were a lot of throwbacks to prior scenes in the film, like Preacher Boy's various songs, um, the songs Remick and all the vampires were singing. Like all these things kind of have multiple connections to multiple things. But overall, it was dope. I mean, it's one of the few times that an original IP came out, and it was so just succinct, I guess. So the script is pretty tight. You can't find a bunch of holes because they explore these characters pretty, fully. And I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Now, I think some of the hype is too much because people are really going nuts because typically we don't get movies of this caliber, not like this. But I think it does have an issue, and this is my issue as a Black creative. I always, and as I've taught, and I make things myself, characters especially. And one of the issues I always have with a lot of Black creators, Black writers, Black designers, is that when they create shit, it's always Black. Like we'll talk about movies. It's Black people in Black places doing Black things. And it's like, if you're a Black man, Black woman, and you know Black people and Black things, how do you keep making movies just constantly telling us about your experience with no, the twist in this case is that you added vampires to something that was inspired by a story that you were told by a family member, because he was told the story of, what was his name?
Robert Johnson.
Robert Johnson.
Yeah.
And how he sold his soul so that he could play. He sucked. And then one day he shows up like a day or two later after he bombed, playing the guitar like a fucking demon, like he was amazing. And everybody's like, what the fuck? And then the rumors start going around that he sold his soul so that he could play the blues, or play the guitar or whatever. And so he turned this into, he mixed other stories that he had heard into this. Why can't you push your presentation by telling the story in an allegorical manner with characters that aren't, it could have been in the far future on a planet where nobody's Black or white. It could have been like, a story that fucking aliens heard about a planet called Earth during a time called Jim Crow. You know what I'm saying? Like you could mix this up in so many ways to tell this story and still get the same point across. And your audience, the way they like to see all the little things and try to take apart all the things and connect all the dots, now they really get to do that because you removed it from the usual conventions of a Black story. I'm 40, I'm going to be 46 this year, and I'm so tired of watching movies where when a Black dude is at the helm, unless it's a Black guy directing a story that was written by a white or an Asian guy, they always do the same shit with their presentation. I see it in comics. A lot of Black comic book artists always have a graffiti style somewhere in there. And it's like, dude, like we get it. You're Black. Okay. Can you draw characters in a way that's unique? Because 50 guys before you also drew characters in a graffiti looking style. I mean, obviously there's slight differences. Damian Scott and John Boy Myers don't look exactly the same, but they have similar qualities to their work. You know what I mean? Then you move over to like Joe Mad, and Joe Mad has all the comic book and manga shit down, but he also can put in some of that funky stuff that, typically the Black guys put in. And it still looks dope. And people will pay, Joe Mad way more than they're paying Damian Scott and what's his name. I mean, there's obviously the race thing.
Yeah.
That is a thing. But then there's just quality of the work. Push the work. Push it. Expand your vision. Like that's my critique, and it's a personal critique. Like if I met Ryan Coogler, I'd be like, "Yo, you directed the shit out of Black Panther, but Stan Lee and Jack Kirby created all that shit. Do your thing where you get to push your narrative and your characters as far as you could fucking push them. Like, go further. You know what I mean? Take your storytelling ability and take the characters further. Move out of the comfortable zone and put them in a different type of place. You know what I mean? Because I see it, even Jordan Peele, same thing. It's black horror. Oh, yeah, the black guy wrote those stories. Of course. Like, we can do more than that. Like, that's why we don't have black sci-fi epics. Because
I
we
was
don't
just
think
gonna say I want to see a
we don't
black
think like that.
sci-fi epic, like
The
a
closest
Afrofuturistic type deal.
I don't even need it to be Afrofuturist, right? Write a fantasy story where the main character is black. It's written by a black guy, and you show a bunch of different worlds. Don't do the thing where the whole everything is black. No, do
No, I'm not saying
Star
that. I'm
Wars.
saying like you
But
have
that's how
those.
most Afrofuturist stories are. The focus is always on like a future that is like all black, which is like that's not as cool as some of the ideas can be. Don't get me wrong. It's the equivalent of watching like 50s and 60s films where the cast is all white and they're supposed to be in like it's like The King and I, where the whole cast they're in Siam and like the whole cast is white, but they're dressed in the proper clothing and shit. It's like, that's not no.
No, yeah, I don't want to see
Don't,
that.
don't
Like
do that.
it doesn't make sense if we've been watching like all this media that's been predominantly white all this time. It doesn't make sense for us to do the exact opposite and make it predominantly
All black.
all black all the time. Like
Yeah.
I
It
want to
don't
see
fit.
a space opera type deal with
Mm-hmm.
that has a wide range of characters that's written by by black creatives, but isn't tied to it's like in comics when you have street level black characters
Oh my
that are
god.
capable of doing way more. Like Luke Cage can
Like
take
Luke
on
Cage.
way bigger threats because of how powerful he is, but he's always
Yeah.
relegated to the streets. Take him
Yeah.
off the streets and have him fight Avengers level shit.
Well,
I want to
they
see it
did
done
it
like
and
that.
they fucked it up. Fucking Mighty Avengers, and they did it, and it was like, you still put those things, those limitations in there, man. And it's like you got to stop thinking like this. You got to think bigger, and I think it's a lack of vision. And it's like there are a few. I think what's the guy's name? Who he was writing? He did a good run uh what's his name? Blue Marvel. No, he's not black. The guy I'm thinking of. I was gonna
You're
say
t-
Al Ewing, but
yeah,
Al
yeah,
Ewing is
Al
not
Ewing.
black.
Yeah.
It's it's God, who is the guy? I don't remember. There is another guy that was pretty good that wrote some pretty I'll have to look it up one day. There's another writer, he's black, and he wrote some pretty cool and I'm not thinking of Reginald Hudlin. Reginald Hudlin does
No.
exactly what I'm talking
Yeah,
about,
yeah. I was gonna say
but
no.
like the umpteenth degree. He when he gets a hold of a black character, they're the best, greatest ever, best
Mhm.
at everything, bestest ever. And it's like, dude, that's too much. You like some characters can be like that. I get it. And even Batman, it's become a meme. So as much as we can say like Batman's the best at everything, yeah, but it's dumb when he's the best at everything. It's better when he's really good at some things like the criminology stuff and the like escape artist type shit, and he's good at martial arts. But like Cassandra Cain could clean his fucking clock. You know what I mean? Or Shiva could show up and like fold his ass up, and you're like, damn, Shiva's got skills. Like I love it when that's the Batman we're dealing with. Where he can't outfight her, so he's gonna fucking anesthetic gas the room
Yeah.
so that he could, level the playing field. That's how Batman should be written. Everyone should write him like that. That's why I'm tired of all the takes because not enough people seem to get who the character is at his core, and then they're real quick to add in their own bullshit. And it's like, yeah, he wouldn't do this. But anyway, the overarching criticism I have is as great as it is, it's limited by the vision of the writer. And you can tell that the writer has some crazy vision, but it's like because blackness, he won't go further. It's like everything is firmly rooted in what you already know. You're black. We get it. And I don't think you will hear this criticism from anyone else because a lack of vision is literally what's kneecapped the industry in the last decade or so. Actually, a couple decades with all the remakes and the fucking sequels and prequels and the grounded takes on all the characters because everybody's scope of vision is so fucking small, they can't see things going farther. And it needs to go farther. Even the MCU is fucking kneecapped by a lack of vision for the people working on those films. It's frustrating to see because when you read the comics, you know how far things can go. You know how powerful characters are. You know how the cosmic side is fucking nuts for DC and Marvel. Yet when you watch the movies, they have it watered down like crazy because they think audiences won't be able to take that shit. Like if you really want to firmly separate yourself from Star Wars and all the other shit that's out there, now you need to start opening up the scope of these ideas. And this isn't to take away from what Coogler did because he did a lot of things that a lot of black directors don't do. The deal he made to keep the rights to his film, it's pretty awesome. Everybody having, I think the main stars having a stake in the earnings from the film. So they're all of them are going to be paid out from the earnings of the film. And then in 25 years, Homeboy's he's going to get complete ownership over the film.
And he got final cut, which doesn't happen that often.
That almost never happens. Yeah. So he gets it inside and out. You know what I mean? Like he is firmly in the right place. But what I need him to do, I need Jordan Peele to do the same thing. Step outside of the comfort zone. We were starting to kind of get it with Lovecraft Country.
Yeah.
But she didn't write that book. She's adapting it. But like there were concepts in there that were it was intertwining the two, and then it was just fucking blowing the roof off of what you normally see black characters doing and what they're allowed to fight and what they're allowed to deal with. You were seeing that get taken to a whole different level. We need more of that shit. Go farther. We need to be fighting demons and we need to be fighting aliens, saving the world and dimensions and reality wars and shit like that. Put us in that place. That's where we need to be. You know what I mean? If Blade can hunt vampires and do it in style, make a black vampire or a black demon hunter who's fucking pushing back Cthulhu. Take it there. Like you could do it. You know what I mean? And you can make the fucking the scope of what we're doing bigger. You know what I mean? Because you got the interpersonal connections. They got that shit down. That's why this movie is so successful. Because you can't go into the movie and not feel the connections between all these characters. And that's why the story works so well. But imagine that level of writing in an action movie where the action was on the level of like the Blade movies or the Matrix, and then the story is this good. You know what I mean? Like, shit. Shit. Like, that would be a whole different story. And I think, like, more of the critics need to start paying attention to these things because you hear all kinds of stuff, but you don't hear people thinking about these obvious limitations. And this is why I hate the lack of creativity that we see on YouTube. And we see, like, there are a lot of creative people when it comes to skill sets. But as far as the scope, like when you watch like a lot of the toy collector types that make little like shorts with the action stop motion shorts and stuff, they always do the same shit. All of them do the exact same shit. It's either going to be full on comedy that just is dumb, like practically stoner comedy, or it'll just be your run of the mill. I like military stuff, so I'm going to make them do military stuff. Or I like superheroes, so I'm going to do my version, which is low budget, of a Marvel story that I read or something. You know what I mean? Like, They do the same exact shit. No one pushes anything when they create GI Joe type stuff. It's always the same thing. New recruit. He's bad as fuck. He's the greatest at everything. To join up with the Joes whoever their favorite Joes are, they're the greatest at everything, and boom, that's how it works. You know what I mean? Nobody pushes it. That's why when I did shorts with Fenris Company, people kept copying because there's no GI Joe shorts of people fighting Contra level threats because they don't think that's realistic enough. You know what I mean? Like everybody's vision, their scope of their vision is so low. You're having fun, so that's cool. But like for entertainment purposes, for the rest of us, people say shit like everything's been done before, yet your scope of vision is lacking to that degree. Like, of course you would say that. Then you go over to like Korea, Malaysia, France, China, and you see China, and they're doing all kinds of weird shit that we've never seen before. I thought everything was done before, guys. Like it's a lack of vision. We just need to expand on that. And as soon as they expand on that, like China doesn't even make exclusively Chinese films anymore. I'm seeing Chinese films with white casts. You don't see them with black casts because for some reason they hate us. Yeah. But you see them with white casts. You see them with Russians. You see them with like Japanese people. Like you're seeing China just do a whole bunch of stuff, and it's kind of crazy because they're like super nationalistic. Like that's typically what you get from China and even Japan. But even they are seeing like this is what's lacking in film, and they're like, we're gonna do the thing that's lacking. They're doing it even in the toy industry. Instead of doing run-of-the-mill Greek barbarian type shit, you know, Anglo-Saxon barbarian type shit, or just Japanese stuff, they're doing Warcraft adjacent barbarian looking characters and orcs and shit. They're doing Chinese folklore heroes and demons and shit. They're doing like everything we don't get from everyone else. They're doing it. And even the stuff like the Batman that InArt just did of Christian Bale from the Dark Knight films, the trilogy, it blows every other one that's come before out of the fucking box. Like it's no competition, and it's $50. Like the lack of vision here in the US when it comes to stuff, it's fucking staggering. And I keep seeing it, and I'm just like, man, fucking Bobby Vala can't make original characters to save his life. He just makes guys that wear cool gear. So it's like everybody else gets those characters, pops the heads off and puts a G.I. Joe head on it because now you've got the character to go with the cool gear. You listen to him talk and he thinks he's doing the Lord's work. And it's like, you're lacking in vision, homie. Vision. You need to dream bigger and better. It's the same thing with, there was an action movie that we saw. Well, John Wick showed you could take the badass assassin thing and expand on it and have tons of assassins and have a world within the world of assassins where shit that we don't even, we've seen it before, but like this is it's grounded, but it's still insane within that grounded world because it's like, how the fuck are all these people getting killed and cleaned up before the cops come and anybody can see the aftermath of what just happened? Like, there's a whole ecosystem within the ecosystem.
Bulletproof clothing.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's nuts, but at the same time, it works because the vision is there. We need more of that shit because that's why so many of these stories fall flat. It's because the vision is lacking, you know? So, yeah, that's my criticism. Do you have a criticism?
No, I want to see some of those same things too. I was just looking at the film just as itself, on its own, and I really didn't have any huge nitpicks. I felt it was kind of a little bit of a plot hole how Stack and Mary kind of got away because somehow they didn't, but it was kind of explained. But I let it go because everything else about the film was done so well.
Well, they stuck to that rule You know, if you don't see the death, it didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just like with the whole hive mind thing, because everyone else was there and they were all like
Mhm.
tuned in. What was it that allowed those two individuals to be able to break free of that and get away? Um,
Or
and
did
that,
they?
but I don't care. Like it's just
Yeah.
something I noticed,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
does. But I don't care because the ends justified the means, so to speak, with how everything it was supposed to play out with the film. So like that was just like my biggest contention with it, which really I don't think was that big of
Yeah.
a deal.
Yeah, that's one of those suspension of disbelief moments where you're just like,
Yeah.
"Yeah." Yeah,
But yeah,
I
I mean,
think
I want to see what he does next, and it would be cool if he did take it in a much more imaginative direction.
yeah. Yeah. And the other thing was I was expecting more action. And this is another reason why I say it's a drama with supernatural elements in it. It's not really an action flick. Because I remember them saying that because Marvel won't make their Blade movie, they were fucking around and they just, for whatever reason, they just won't do it. And now you see the Blade is dead. They're not doing
Yeah.
it. They were like, we'll do it. We'll do our own. And that's kind of where some of this came from. But like I just rewatched the first Blade, and this movie doesn't hold a candle to Blade when it comes to action.
Yeah.
Like obviously, story it beats the shit out of Blade. Like it's beating Blade all up and down the street. But like you know, the action piece and the cool factor is missing if you're gonna compare or if you're gonna talk about it in that kind of thing. That's why I think it's firmly in its own kind of historical fiction kind of
Yeah. Yeah,
place.
I remember when seeing the initial teaser or whatever for the film, and I immediately thought of Blaster Knuckle, and I was like, "I wish he had did
Man,
this instead."
don't
If he
don't
had
talk too
did
much about
Blaster
Black
Knuckle
Widow.
instead, it would have been
Yeah,
chef's
that would have
kiss.
been amazing. Yeah, but don't talk about it too much because I'm doing something with that. Don't talk
Oh,
about
oh my man.
it, or I'm trying to at least. Um, no, Blaster Knuckle for real is shit. Yeah, you're gonna hear a lot more about that from me sooner or later because yeah, that's another one that like people need to. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand how these things go. Especially hearing you know black comic book geeks and shit and black uh what do you call them otakus and shit.
Mhm.
Yet there's all these black anime and manga you guys don't even bother knowing about. You didn't even look at it. You didn't even, and if you did, you didn't think highly enough of it to tell people about it. But you're
Yeah.
like black bliggity black back. I'm black, y'all. And it's like, what the fuck? Like,
It's
tell us about some good shit.
I will say it's gotten more it's getting a bit more notoriety.
Where?
I actually, well, I was watching, I was watching Double Toasted, and somebody in the comments when they first started talking about Sinners, somebody else in the comments mentioned it, and I was like kind of blown away because I never hear anybody talk about it. Um, I've even tried to tell other like people at like because there's a few people at work that are into anime and there's some people that read manga and I was telling them about it. I was like, you should check it out if you're looking for something else to pick up and read. It's already done, so you can read the whole thing. And it is getting a little bit more recognition. It's still I think it's still widely unknown and very underrated, but I think is if
Yo, you broke up so bad. I couldn't hear anything at
oh
all.
damn. Yeah, I know it's been happening, especially on my end too. There's like huge gaps where you would cut out.
Well,
But
it says it's recording on both of our sides. So it probably recorded what you were saying on your side. And so when I get the playback, I should be able to, connect the two when we're done. But
all
what were
right.
you saying? Just you could repeat some of it.
I was just saying it's gotten a bit more notoriety. I think it's only a matter of time before it just becomes as mainstream as everything else. And then we'll be like tired of hearing it because now it's become
Yeah.
overrated.
Because everybody's going to dick ride.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone's going to dick ride. They're going to be, oh my God, this is the best since Berserk. And it's like, it's been around since Berserk too.
Yeah.
Like it's old as shit. But Yeah, that's something. Yeah, you'll see if everything goes right, you're gonna see something like from Blaster Knuckle from my squad and I. But yeah, man, I wish I that's a dream right there. Oh my god, I even at one point was like, I want to find Kugler and them on Twitter and send them a picture of that anime or that manga so they can read it and be like, this is our next project, or down the line, this is our next project. Because
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be a one for one take. It could be I'd love to see a futuristic looking version of that.
they should do both. Because I'm pretty sure the story is set up where that order continues throughout time. That's the way it ends, where you get the impression that the because I think it's an unfinished series. It didn't pick up.
Yeah.
So they just left it at the end of like what third or fourth volume. It just and then it's done. It ends, the story ends, but like you get the impression that more was supposed to happen. So they could potentially do the whole the versus thing where the conflict keeps going and those characters keep persevering through time. I don't know how you would explain it. Maybe they're reincarnated or something. I don't know. But Versus is another one we should talk about. We should do a video like this about Versus. I haven't watched it in a while, but
Yeah, I was just gonna say I need to go watch it again.
that movie it's still one of my favorites, man. He said my reflexes are 500 times faster than Mike Tyson. And then he got shot and exploded. Like, oh my god, I'm gonna watch that shit again so we can talk about it. Should at the very least, I'll do a video about it because that movie is perfect. I hate how Hollywood mishandles Kitamura. Kitamura was one of those guys that like he should by now he should be a household name. Dude's so good. But that's a story for another day.
Mhm.
But yeah, so you got anything else you want to add? I know we keep jumping around and then coming back and then jumping around and
Yeah.
coming back to the story, but I mean that's what you get from us. So
Yeah, I mean, nothing off head. I didn't see Thunderbolts yet, so I can't really add
yeah.
anything. I like what I'm seeing. I just feel like people have been so starved for
Yeah.
Marvel to
100%.
do like to be good again that
Yep.
they're just pole jockeying this movie, and I think it's gonna be just fine, but
Yeah.
it's already feels like it's overrated.
Yep. Yep. That's exactly what's going on. That's exactly what's going on with that movie. It's good, but it's not like super perfect like everybody's acting like it is. It's just a good movie.
Yeah, and I don't even expect like those films to be like that anymore because no, they're never gonna catch lightning in a bottle like that again. And
No.
even if they do, let's say they make a film or a whole arc that's on the level of phases 1 through 3,
Mhm.
but it's already been done. Like the magic is like we've already gotten that. I don't know. I want to see them do well. I want to see them do good stories. I want to see them take things uh crazier in the super and as far as like super heroics and stuff. Like
Me too.
I've been saying that since the first Avengers. I was like they need to punch this stuff up because the whole reason why you read comic books is to see them do stuff that normal people can't do. I don't need to see it grounded. I think that's the
Mhm. That's the
ever since
kryptonite.
those Nolan Batman movies, that's the worst thing they could have ever went with comic
I
book
agree.
film.
I
Because
agree.
that's not going to work for everything. You can't ground Superman,
Yeah.
so you really shouldn't ground Batman because when you do it, it all stops making sense.
All
Um,
the cracks start to show. It's
yeah,
like, yeah, this can't work.
like they're
This-
gonna have to reboot Batman again
yeah.
because that Pattinson Bat isn't gonna work in James
And he was
Gunn's
having
world.
trouble running from the cops.
Yeah.
He couldn't outrun. He could barely outrun the cops. You tell
Yeah.
me this guy is gonna be operating for like 20 years? Like, yeah, no, he's getting caught tomorrow. Like, they're gonna catch
Yeah.
his ass tomorrow. Yeah, nah. I don't know. But we'll see. And that even that movie, the sequel is in danger. It seems like it's not coming because it's been delayed like 10 different times, and it
Good.
keeps getting delayed. And I'm kind of like, yeah, you
Good.
kind of were a one-trick pony. At this point, this is the age of you getting Batman Prime correct. We're tired of everybody's takes. I know I am. I've been sick of this shit. Ask Bodie and some of these other cats I talked and Zorpox and all of them. They've heard me bitch about this forever. You can't keep doing a prime, your take on a character without establishing the prime version of the character. And no one seems to be interested in the prime versions. Like, look at all the bullshit that Marvel did with Spider-Man. Like, that's not Spider-Man. You could have made that somebody else's story. That could have been one of the ricochets. You could have made that been their story because you didn't give us Spider-Man in almost any way, shape, or form. There's like one moment I can think of, and it's when he uses his spider sense to see through Mysterio's illusion when he beats him at the end. That's a Spider-Man moment. Everything else, no thank you. It's
I think there
so
were way
much
more Spider-Man moments in the Andrew
amazing
Garfield
movies.
version.
Yeah, because they seem to read those books. Easter eggs and everything made sense. So, yeah, we need more of the, again, vision, scope of vision, improve that, and then tell these some of these stories are already, the Bible exists because the films were made. Like do that shit, and then expand on some of those ideas. You bring it, make it modern because it's going to take place in this time period, and go from there. But yeah, I think that's probably going to do it for us.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to, when you do see Thunderbolts, maybe we'll do another one, or we can do verses instead. We'll just rewatch verses and then chat about it because I think that'll be fun. But
Yeah, I'm down.
yeah, cool. Well, guys, that's it for us. You guys have been great. Stay tuned for whatever else is coming. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Peace outside.
Peace.